And it's intended to help you, it's intended to lay out what Agile is, but more importantly, the way they lay it out is agnostic of what you want to use it for. Like software development, I don't believe is mentioned in the Agile manifesto. They've literally made it so that anybody can go ahead and use it for any type of project they want. So I want you to think about that as we walk through this, because it can literally be used for anything. It can also, in addition to software development, it can also be applied to data science, and you are very likely to come across it in your career at multiple points, right? And you should also know that there are various forms of Agile planning. Agile planning is kind of like the umbrella, and then there's other like variations or adaptations is a better word. Adaptations of Agile planning, of planning that are also Agile, that fall under the umbrella of Agile. Okay? So today we are specifically learning something called Scrum planning. You should be aware of that, right? Scrum planning is also very popular, and I'm teaching you how it was taught to me at IBM. And IBM uses Agile, and specifically they use Scrum planning. So I'm using this to kind of establish the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about today, because I want to make sure that I'm guiding you in the right way, so that you kind of have a foundation to build upon, and other things that you can Google, or other things that you can go out and research on your own. All right? All right. So again, I'm giving you what's going to be useful to you walking into a team that already uses Agile. So that team most likely already has somebody who's leading the project planning. You might hear that person referred to as the Scrum Master. That's literally the word. And then they're leading the meetings where you discuss the Agile planning. So for today, I'm playing both the role of the Chief Data Scientist and the Scrum Master. And this would be like a Scrum meeting that all of us as a team are attending. So you, as a data scientist on the team, you need to know about two different things. One, just one more meta thing, right? Another thing you're going to hear out there is that every project in the world is time and resources, right? How much time do I have? How many resources do I have? And then what can I accomplish in that time? Right? Every project in the world is time and resources. So what is the time in Agile planning? In Agile planning, a basic unit of time is known as a sprint. So when you hear a sprint, you should hear time. It's a nice fancy word, but it means time. Every team out there, you're going to have to ask. Every team has a different definition of how long a sprint is for them. 2 weeks is the most common. Sometimes you hear about teams having 1 week sprints, but 2 weeks is the most common. And you're basically breaking out your entire project into these 2 week sprints. And you're saying, this is how many sprints I have, and then this is what I can accomplish in each one of those sprints. Okay? So for you, you in your first position, entry level, you're not going to be deciding the length of the sprints. It'll be dictated to you, right? So the way you can best help your team is by estimation. Being able to estimate what you're able to do, what you're able to accomplish and finish, very important, right? So that's what you should be working on now. If you want to say, hey, I may not be an Agile master, I'm not going to be a manager in my first role, but here's how I can contribute to Agile planning. And that's by saying, I'm pretty good at estimating what I can finish in 2 weeks in a sprint. That's like the big win that you could bring to a team, or that you could highlight in an interview, right? Because remember, I talked to you guys about how a manager wants to know if you're ready to go, right? Ready to go on day one, I mean, right? So if you can walk into an interview and say, hey, by the way, I've been working on my Agile skills by working on my estimation, and I have a pretty good sense of my skills and what I can do in 2 weeks, that's a bonus for you, right? You're making yourself stand out. So that's what I would encourage you. When you think about sprints, think about time, and then think about your estimation skills. So the best way you can do that is you can look at projects, look at different things you're going to do for a project, and you can say, yeah, I think I can do this part of the project in the next 2 weeks. And time yourself, right? Make sure you mark the date, go 2 weeks, and then at the end of those 2 weeks, go ahead and take an honest assessment of yourself and say, yeah, I was able to finish that, or no, maybe I was a little too ambitious. Maybe I should have just finished this, and this, right? And then try it again for another 2 weeks, and then try it again. If you refine that and you're able to have a sense of what you can do in 2 weeks, that's the best way you're helping your team, you're helping your manager with Agile planning. All right? So that's the first thing we're going to keep in mind. What is the units of time that we are being given? Time and resources, sprint is your time. Okay? So, what are you doing in those 2 weeks? What is the basic unit of work in Agile planning? And that is known as a story. And a story basically describes a new feature or a new part of your project that is being added. Right? So here's my sprint, here's my stories, and here's my 2 weeks, and here's what I want to add. Here's the features I want to add in those 2 weeks. So Agile doesn't have many rules. Like I said, Agile's intended to be fluid and apply to many different fields, right? But one of the few rules you got to be aware of is that a story, when you create a story, it has to be completed within a sprint.